Greetings, everybody. Welcome to September. I hope you all survived the U.S. holiday weekend well. Uh, some of us are still running a little rough. It's a little too quick of a turnaround. I'm actually not home. I'm on the road, so I will do my best to try to keep well, at least myself in line. I can't swear to any of the others, to be honest with you. It wouldn't be fair for any of us, but I do want to welcome you all. Glad to see so many people being able to make the call. Um, Again, you always are free to view the recordings of these calls from past months' discussions. The links are sent to you in the newsletter, but if you can't find them, please remember that you are welcome to go to the Rotary Zones 33-34 TV YouTube channel, and they are very well indexed, much in part to the assistance of our Zone 33 RC, Terry Weaver. So for today, without going into a lot of detail, it's pretty simple to recap what we've discussed last month and some of the months prior. And that's what we and our clubs are doing to promote the initiative of innovative growth. And not just in clubs, but in all other aspects of finding ways to be innovative. We've talked about the importance of contacting and working with other district leaders and searching for where our efforts and the district's efforts fit best within it. The other thing that's important to reinforce for purposes of today is you don't have to figure out how to do that alone. Not only are the past resources still available in various places, the zone website and whatnot, but new to this 24-25 Rotary year, our zone ICA has a team. You've got Ken Fleeson in 7280. You've got, excuse me, Al DeLucia in 7305. Renee Laws, who I saw is on the call, from 7610. Patrick Longano, as you would expect, in 7670. And my classmate Mike Walker in 7680. I can actually show you what that looks like if I'm able to pull it up successfully. Maybe. How about that? Can everybody give me a thumbs up if you can see that chart?
Yes.
If you're not sure who it is on the Zone ICA team that's associated with your district to be that first level of support, there it is. It's attached to the newsletter that goes out. It can be, sent to you as a freestanding document, but we just want to try to structure this in a way that's most beneficial, and also so you don't have to wait a month to ask any kind of question you've got. So if you haven't seen that, there it is. This call, like all others, will be recorded. It'll be part of that. And if you just want to send a reply to the email reminder of today's meeting, I'll be glad to send that to you independently. So let's get into some facilitated discussion, if you will. And part of what we want to talk about today is the importance of providing a general understanding to those tasked with the data gathering. We've mentioned in past calls that of 17 of our districts in the zone, 9 of those have brand new district ICAs. And you may have noticed when you agreed to take that position, there's not a playbook, there's not a script. I can't give you a job description of what an ICA's role looks like, feels like, how it can be used moving forward with the other members of your district membership team, particularly your DMC and whatever his or her efforts are geared towards facilitating. So that's part of what we want to talk about today is we've got a plan. When I say we, the team and I have discussed what that could look like, and we're going to kind of create that discussion backwards. That's the goal in order to better understand what it is and what it can look like. And certainly at the end of this, ask for input from anybody that wants to be part of those efforts. We want to take you through kind of the steps of how we got to where we are in hopes that not only creates a better appreciation for what it is that we're asking be done, but also an understanding of what you as the person who is out where the rubber meets the road is actually doing it. So, and we're going to toss this around to the various members of the team. I wanted to start out, I think, in my archaic male mind, if I understand how something got started and how it works, then I have a better understanding of how to continue it. And we've got one of the greatest resources available to help us with that discussion, or at least kick it off, and that's Chris Jones, one of the original Zone ICAs. So Chris, if you would, do you want to share with this group a little bit about what the initial vision or the purpose was in creating this ICA initiative within membership?
Thanks, Sean. That's sure. Happy to do that. And back in January of, I can't remember what year it was now, but it's 4 or 5 years ago now. Mark Maloney called us all up to RI in Evanston and said, we need to do something different. Because what we're doing right now just isn't getting us the number of members that we need to overcome the number of members that happen through natural attrition. And out of that meeting came the concept of Innovative Club Advocates. That was the name that was decided by the group of people that were there in Evanston. And off we went and started running. The whole concept here was, let's throw off the reins. Let's go figure out what kinds of clubs, innovative type clubs that we can create that meet our members where they are now, or meeting our new members where they are, and start creating new pathways into Rotary. Now, that's a lot of that language that I just used is my language, not necessarily the language that we used in that meeting. But the bottom line is that we know for a fact that our legacy model works for a lot of members, but the real opportunity in front of us is the opportunity to create clubs and membership types that meet the members' needs of today's member. And what that basically means is that we're not the same organization we were in 1905. We're not even the same organization we were in 2005. Maybe not even the same organization that we were in 2015. And our members aren't the same members that they were in those time periods either. They have different needs. They have different values. They look for different value propositions. And so the whole goal of what this initiative is all about is to create a pathway into Rotary that allows people to serve, that allows people to do all the things that we do that meet the object of Rotary and the four-way test, but maybe does it a little bit differently than we've been doing it for 100+ years. And I'm going to come back to one of my favorite Paul Harris quotes, which is, you have to be evolutionary at all times and revolutionary on occasion. Paul Harris said that in 1935, and it was as relevant then as it is today. We need to continue to be evolutionary and revolutionary when we need to create the type of clubs that our members want. One of the ways, and I'll stop here in just a second, Sean. One of the ways that zones 33 and 34, our parent district down to the south, has led North America in new members, in total membership growth, is because of the innovative ways that we've been opening new clubs. We lead North America in the innovative club advocacy effort.
Chris, perfectly said. Not only in itself, but you've actually teed up the next part of this quite well. Patrick Longano, who we all know as being the godfather of impact, if you will, had planned to be on the call, but he wasn't able to do that right away. His intention was to discuss the evolution of what that's turned into. And I can't even begin to pretend like I know exactly what Patrick was going to say. But what I can tell you from my perspective is the way that what Chris just explained has evolved is the original name given to this was Innovative Club Advocacy. And we've had tons of discussion about whether that name still fits what it is we're being asked to do. And I think that's part of the evolution process, in that instead of being innovative about advocating clubs, we're really talking about finding innovative ways to grow. And not just grow for the sake of growing, but grow for the sake of the value proposition and being able to deliver to our customers, if you will, what it is they expect when they become a member of this organization. And the best way to evaluate whether we're hitting that on all cylinders like we need to be, and reaching out and finding those people that need to be served where they are met. Mike Walker wants to share a little bit about what it looks like value-wise on the other side once you follow those proverbial steps. Mike, I know you're in the car, but if you're able, I know you wanted to share some of that with us today. Maybe Mike's gone. I just got a text message.
Oh, okay, I'm here.
There you are.
But
There you are.
I'm here. I'm home. I'm going upstairs to jump on the computer, so I won't put my video on. But I do want to make several points, and really 3 points. And the first is ICA, or new clubs, if you will, is the history of Rotary. I mean, we need to remember that Rotary went from 1 to 36,000 clubs, and every one of those was done through a process that we're going through today, with finding 20 members or 10 members or 8 members or whatever it is, and finding people that want to have be involved in a new structure or a new club. And so we're really not doing anything new. We're just doing a little bit of different structure than what we have in the past. And excuse me, I've been kind of walking quickly here. And so it's important to remember that's our context. So a point that I want to make, and this incorporates a little bit of what Patrick talks about, is it was very confusing to me, all the terminology. So I said, well, it's kind of, there's 2 elements to it, and you pick one from column A, one from column B, and it's the relationship to the parent club first for a new endeavor. And it might be the parent club. It might be just a new membership type that people meet at a different time, or they just do service, and maybe you give them a little discount on dues. Call it a day and keep it simple. There's no structure, there's no officers. And then the next level might be a companion club, that, as we call it, as the term I think developed in our zone, of a club that is going to have 8 or more members, but they always plan to be part of the parent club, and they're connected to the parent club. And that may be a different meeting time, it may be service only, whatever. And then the third is the old Rotary term of a satellite club. And in our mind, we kind of think of that as a club that eventually plans to spin off one day. And really the fourth way it might be connected to the parent club is it's not connected to the parent club. It's maybe a new geographic area. It's just something totally new. So then you say, okay, well, that's that. The second part of that is what's their purpose? And the purpose might be service, that Patrick's impact clubs are largely built around service, people that want to do just exclusively service. It might be a club that's a cause-based club like we see in 7730 and other places. It might be a different membership type. It might be or a different meeting time, I'm sorry. So the purpose, so if you separate the purpose from the relationship to the parent club, and you'd say, well, pick one from each, and then you've got a structure for 8 or 10 different ways a club could be organized. And the last thing I want to say is to address the issue, and this is to me the real value proposition that I saw in action with the parent club. And the Shelby Club in our district started a new impact club, and they chartered last week, and I went to the chartering event, and there were 10 brand new members. Well, the concern they had initially was cannibalization. Well, guess what? It turned out 8 of the 10 new members were brand new to Rotary. And not only that, and we had the same thing happen in our Charlotte Club with the new club they started last year. Some of those new members were the children of the members. And the new Impact Club was a perfect avenue for the children that wanted to meet at a different time. They wanted to do things in a different way. They wanted to do their club, not their parents' club, but they wanted to be in Rotary and still have ties to literally their parents' club. And they've got another 10, maybe 12 in the works. So they've got a total of 22 or 23 potential. Half of them are members now, half are hopefully going to become members before too long. And 80 or 90% of those are not in Rotary, or were not in Rotary. They were not in the parent club. I think out of 22, maybe 3. But I tell people, you want to have a few that have Rotary experience in the new club. You don't want just 10 or 20 people that don't know anything about Rotary trying to start a club. So it doesn't hurt to have minor amounts of cannibalization, but that was, we've had 2 examples, certainly in our district, of new clubs that didn't cannibalize. They added in the huge value proposition of that is now people have one more way to meet. And someone made that excellent presentation. Maybe it was the last meeting of, we give people 2 or 3 different ways to be Rotary. And that's really what they're after.
Right.
So with that, I'll stop.
That's great. Just kind of recap. Let's talk about the whole spectrum that we've covered so far, just during this call. You know, Chris shared with us what the initial vision looked like, and Chris often tells the story is if Ford only made the Model A and never had evolved into anything beyond that, we'd all still be driving Model A's, which is not even practical to think of. The world has changed. People have changed. Rotary has changed. The way that we go out and grow it has to change as well. And he talked about the evolution of that. And I tried to hit on some of those points as well. And Mike has explained that once you do that, what the value of all that can look like. Al DeLucia, who's also part of our team, is somebody who has had great success in his own district and supporting others around him as well in doing that. And Al, I think you wanted to share part of what the origins plus the evolution equals value can look like when you put that into practice. Is that right?
I'd be happy to, Sean. Thank you. So the origin, my district is 7305, which is southwestern Pennsylvania. And the origin of our first Impact Club, which was my club, the Rotary Club of McMurray's Impact Club, was that we had been a lunch club. We became a breakfast club, and becoming a breakfast club was great for some members, and it wasn't so great for other members. And where we were meeting was it was a nice breakfast place, but it wasn't the best fit for everybody. And so we decided that to be able to expand our reach and to be able to expand our membership and to attract some members that really were not going to be joining our traditional club, we desired to form an innovative club, and ours was an impact club. And what we found was that as soon as we started talking to our members, and our members started talking to their families and friends about the way to serve their community by joining our impact club, we immediately had a significant amount of attention and momentum in being able to start an impact club. And as Mike had said, a lot of our members were either spouses or family members, right? We had in our impact club, our charter members, we had 3 spouses of Rotarians, and we had 4 children of Rotarians, and all of them had been approached at one time or another about joining our traditional club, and all of them said that just wasn't the right fit for them. But to be able to join our impact club as a service-only model so they could give back to their community and get the service and the value they were looking for from Rotary without attending our traditional club meetings was exactly what they were looking for. The value added to that was the enthusiasm that came from those members and the service projects and the publicity that they got. Back in May of 2023, we added 7 new total members, but 5 of those were to the traditional club, and they had come to the traditional club because of the Impact Club, what they had seen at the Impact Club, with the enthusiasm, the service projects. They came to our traditional club to find out more about Rotary. They liked our traditional club, and they joined our traditional club. Another thing that is becoming the evolution of the innovative membership pathways is that my district just saved an entire club. The Rotary Club of Johnstown had at one time over 100 members. Some of those members decided that they were going to split off and form their own club, which the Rotary Club of Johnstown sunset. The Rotary Club of Johnstown met at noon. Rotary Club of Johnstown met in the evening at a different place. Rotary Club of Johnstown at one time had about 20 members. It's dwindled down. They were down to about 12 members. They were seriously considering turning in their charter. I had many conversations with the Rotarians. They still wanted to serve. They still wanted to be part of Rotary, but they were finding it difficult to be able to accomplish a lot of the administrative tasks, getting people to be president and be board officers. We talked many times about them becoming the innovative club of the Rotary Club of Johnstown. And so that's what happened. The Rotary Club of Johnstown Somerset gave up their charter and is now the Rotary Club of Johnstown Impact Club. They started with 13. They now have 15 members. So we not only do we not lose those members, but we're actually adding members, and the Rotary Club of Johnstown has an alternative option for Rotary for people in that area. They now have the traditional club. They now have the Impact Club, and it's working very well. So that's what I see as really the evolution of the innovative pathways into membership. Is not just growing membership, not just the value added, but also being able to retain members that you might lose with that different option.
Al, that's perfect. If there's anybody on the call that can't see the chat, either you're driving, you're darked out, you've got your mind wrapped around something else right now. There have been some very valuable comments placed in the chat, and I'll ask either one of those people, Terry Weaver or Heather Valeri, either one. Terry put in the chat that his own club's after hours companion club salvaged 4 to 5 members who'd been unable to attend meetings at lunch, which sounds exactly like what you're talking about, Al. Terry, did you want to expand upon that or share anything beyond what you put in the chat with the group while we're on the call?
Well, just maybe an example or two of how that could happen. We have a great member who was starting her professional photography practice when she joined the club 3 or 4 years ago. And she shows up at everything and of course takes pictures. And well, this business took off on her, and she, she does shoots out of town and that sort of thing. And it's not unusual at all that she's not able to make a Tuesday noon meeting. It was a perfect solution for her. And that's somebody that probably would have simply drifted away from Rotary and certainly wasn't getting the value proposition out of her $500 worth of prepaid meals. So it's solved a lot of those kinds of problems for us.
Absolutely. And that's kind of what Heather touched on her chat. And if Heather, you want to speak to this after I'm done, I'll just kind of read the chat into the record. But you're talking about finding people who maybe are phasing themselves out or losing interest or not finding that value proposition anymore, and repurposing, if you will, if that's a proper term to use for a tired Rotarian. Do you want to share with the group part of what you typed in there?
Yes, one individual, he's very introverted and belonged to a very large club, and he was falling kind of into the cracks, right? I mean, as a Rotarian, you get what you give, so to speak. But just he was very introverted. The daytime schedule just didn't work well for him. So when we started a club, he came and visited, and he really has become a thriving member. He serves in leadership. He's almost at every service opportunity. He's helped mentor other new members. So he's been a great addition to our club. And, he's a shining star. So it's just amazing to see how he's transformed and really come out of his comfort zone. And then we also have a member that is a son of 2 longstanding Rotarians. He didn't want to be in the same club with his parents, and didn't really want to be in the formal ballroom type meeting. So he prefers our, bi-weekly meeting, evening format as well.
Heather, I have a kid just like that, was already doing Rotary stuff, had done everything except sign on the dotted line. And when he did, he was sure that the club he was joining is not the one that his mother and dad were in. I promise you, there's value in that proposition as well. I don't care what club you join, just join one, right?
Exactly.
Carrie, you've been very patient with your hand held up, and we referred back to those newer ICAs and trying to, create some foundation so that you all can spring forward. You're the perfect example of that. Please go right ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. I was wondering about Al's example of a club that was dwindling that turned in its charter and became a satellite of another club. Is turning in the charter necessary to do that? Like, we have a club that is dwindling and I think has like 5 people showing up when they meet. And I'm wondering whether our club that's done an impact club could take them under wing and help them regrow so that they could be back out on their own again. And I didn't know what the legalities, so to speak, are for that kind of situation.
Al, can you share how that was done in your situation? And maybe we'll turn to Chris Jones next.
Sure,
if we
I was
need
going to say Chris is probably the expert, and so is Terry. But I know it, Carrie, in this specific case, the club wanted to turn its charter. I don't think it's absolutely necessary. In our district, we are working with another club that doesn't want to lose its charter, that we're trying to help them grow, and basically using them as an example, and some of the other impact clubs that we have in our district as examples of how they can grow with innovative membership and innovative projects that they can do, and how to attract members that wouldn't normally be attracted to their club through innovative membership growth strategies. But I don't think it's necessary for a club to turn its charter in to be able to grow in an innovative way. No.
Terry, I see as the chief mechanic and service advisor for this office, what can you add mechanically to that?
Well, I think we start with the end in mind, which is where do they want to be, as Al pointed out. Do they want to combine that as part of another club and just be a satellite? And I've facilitated several of those. The name of that game, though, folks, is call it a club merger, which is what it is, and run it through RI as a club merger, because that's what it is. If you get satellite tangled up in that at the outset, you really run into trouble. So in that particular case, what we did is we merged the weaker club, shall we say, with the host club. And then once that was done, then we just separated the clubs in DAC-DB and assigned the previously smaller club or failing club members to the satellite. And then once we got that up to critical mass, up to at least 10, 12 members, then filed the satellite paperwork to make them official as a satellite. But the point being that if you do that, rather than let the club unravel and let the charter disappear, then you've got to go get all those people back. In the case of merging them first, then they've got to do something to opt out, if you will. Now, to Al's other point, though, if you've got a club that just needs help, I really think the prescription for that is what Mike calls personal membership coaches, or we're in the zone calling club assistance teams, and actually have 2 or 3 individuals, not a club, but 2 or 3 individuals commit to hands-on coaching, helping, assistance, et cetera, with that particular club, help them start getting out of their own way. And I believe that's what a club leadership team needs. If they don't want to maintain that leadership core, they want to give up back office, they want to give up collecting dues and all that sort of stuff, then it's a merger/satellite scenario. But otherwise, I think it's just a couple, 3 people that are willing to help them from a hands-on basis.
Thank you, Terry. Michael, I see your hand up next. Go right ahead.
First of all, I want to acknowledge David's grandbaby there. Very cute, David. And second, to Albert's point in the chat of getting rid of the word cannibalization, I totally agree, but that's the word that comes at us. And that's the word that seems to be the #1 word to overcome. But the reality, I think it will go away when the reality in most cases, which it already is that it has just the opposite effect. It's accretive to the club, the existing club, and it gives people more ways to join. And that's certainly been the case in the Shelby Club I talked about, certainly in the Charlotte Club. And I think the reality is when it's promoted right, or presented right, or just decided right, what the purpose of it is, that it is accretive to the club, and it's just the opposite of being cannibalizing.
Yep. I see Albert giving you the head nod of an amen up there. Yep. Chris Jones, I saw your hand next, sir.
Just want to come back to Carrie's question about the charter. And the answer that I would give on that is it depends on the situation. There is not a one-size-fits-all solution to this. It's about qualifying the club, qualifying exactly what their objectives are and where they want to go, and then working with them to facilitate the best outcome. Terry gave a great solution in doing a club merger, believe in those highly. And it's just really important that we take the time to understand where the club is in their journey and make the decision, help them make the decision that's right for them. We don't make that's important to say. We don't make the decision for them. We just help facilitate where they're going to go.
I'll just add to that. And then Patrick, I'd love to hear what you have to say next. Don't get caught up on the vernacular. There's so much confusion. Part of what's being delivered from the folks that speak ICA at these various district events is, what in the world is a satellite anyway? What does that mean? That has such a negative connotation at times. And a lot of the terms, and God knows the acronyms in Rotary that sound like the right idea at first, sometimes prove not to be. So we're talking about meeting people where they are and giving them what they don't have. It certainly isn't part of that for us to dictate what it is that's created. Find out where the need is, what the need is, let them identify the need, and then give them what they want, right? And Patrick, I know you're chomping at the bit because you're big on that, not giving things the wrong name. Please feel free, go right ahead, sir.
Well, just going back to Carrie's question and, listening to the comments, the best thing that you can do as an ICA is kind of look at the clubs that you have right now in your districts and don't let it drop. If they get below 8, club conversion's fine. But if you can get them while they're at 8 or above, you can go ahead and do what we did in Al's district with Jamestown, because two things. They still have a little bit of autonomy, and I know that that's what that club wanted, a little bit of that, being able to still do that, the things that they wanted to do. But the second thing is you can do it all at the same time. And I'm pretty sure that Rotary was like, what's this? But we sent in the club charter paperwork, signed off, turning it in, and the satellite application at the same time with the explanation. So those Rotarians didn't lose a day. They just came in and came out. And that the Jamestown Club, again, they wanted not to have to do, presidency 3 years in a row and all that other stuff, but they wanted to be able to still do a lot of their projects. So that was important to them. So it can be done instantly if you do, if you have a club that wants to do that at the same time. We do it electronically. So if anybody's got one of those things, they can hit us up and we'll send you the information on it where you can just do it all at the same time. But the other thing is this, what it did is it now creates a choice in that club. I'm a big person of give people choices coming in, give people choices going out. And so now when people want to look in that area for a club, they have the parent club that meets in the in the afternoons, and then they have the other one that meets and it's just the impact club basically. But on the way out now, you'll see that the home club that they're attached to, they have a choice. If before there are people that are leaving because of life reasons anytime this year, they'll have the choice to roll over into this other option too. So it is a good way to do it. But just if you can, when you're taking a look at your at-need clubs, try to catch them before 8 so that they have more options than just the turning in a charter, merging, and then trying to get them up to 8 and then doing the paperwork and stuff like this. If you can catch them early enough, when they get to 8, now they have different options that they can do. And it will help the parent club as well, because it gives those people the option on the way out.
Patrick, yes, sir. You teed that up perfectly, because one of the things that I know we wanted to talk about, I mean, all right, now you've got the groundwork. You see where it came from. You see where it's going. You see where it is. We live in a time where there are no Rotary police. It's very easy and perhaps even preferred to do things and ask for forgiveness now instead of permission beforehand. Rotary is not giving us any static or feedback on how these things happen, because they acknowledge and they recognize the impact, no pun intended, of what it is that we're doing, particularly in our own zone. So if you haven't had a chance to enjoy that success yet in your own district, because that it's so much of a blank check that it can be kind of overwhelming, realize that you're not the only one that feels that way. There are people on the Zone ICA team that are new to a lot of this discussion and how that gets started. And that's a conversation that we've been having with the team. And Renee Laws, who's a member of it and kind of the newest one in the world of, membership oriented things, now that she's done being her own district's leader, has brought that up, and she's got some ideas. But I think first, Renee, you wanted to share of what it's like to be new, that all this feel new to you. Is that right? You're muted.
Of course I'm muted. Hi everyone. Yes, I'm new and I am learning. And as you guys can imagine, you see the group of folks that I get to work alongside. I'm really fortunate. And the districts that I was assigned to assist, I think are going to be more assisting me with learning how all of this works. It's been a really wonderful. But my first question was, how do we inform people like what they're supposed to be doing? Where's the job description? Can you give me all the stuff? And it's all in here, not in my head. It's all in here, in the folks in this room. And so we want to put together like a handbook, a playbook. But one of my biggest beliefs is that we don't know what we don't know until we find out we didn't know it. And also, if we're going to be creating something like this, we need, Chris Jones' brain from the conception of this and putting it together, Patrick's energy and fervor, and Mike and Al and Sean, will hold us all together and keep us semi sane. And then Ken coming in to keep us all in line. But we need to hear from the folks that are in the trenches right now, the people that are working in the districts. We need to know, what are you looking for as well? So I think this isn't an overnight thing, but it's something that we want to get started on. And so we kind of wanted to get that kind of info from you as well. So we're going to be going back and forth on that. I don't know if we want to open it up too much today. I don't know how much time we have, but I really think it's important to include the district ICAs and the DMCs and the DGs, anyone who needs, to let us know what you're looking for when you need information. So anyway, was that sufficient, Sean?
It's absolutely, you're speaking from where it counts. And you mentioned Ken, and he is kind of the one that brings us all back to reality every once in a while and serves as the foundation for some of the craziness that we all pour into this. You're right. I think, more than one time there have been people reach out and say, okay, I'm going to be the next ICA. Tell me where I can find that job description. And it's not there. And, there is a little bit of reluctance in creating one because we're talking about being innovative, and we don't want to turn this into a checklist necessarily where you do this and you do this and you do this, because you might be missing, a blatant opportunity to think outside the box and create something where people are needing to be met that isn't part of that list. It doesn't have a box next to it. And I know Patrick Longano has come up with some ideas too, as far as creating a standalone opportunity, kind of a one-off map, equivalent of the map webinar, if you will. Where you're just talking about ICAs. And Patrick, do you want to share, some of your vision of what that could look like? You've done a very good job of explaining what you think it could look like to the rest of our team, because we're talking about resources. Is that anything you want to touch on at this point?
That's like the acronym dictionary.
Yeah, I love it. No, I honestly think it's time. There's so many good programs out there. Matt, Terry's DMC meetings are great to go to. I think they're wonderful. But I think it's time too that the ICA teams, which is all of you, everybody on this call, needs to kind of let it out to the general public and the calls instead of just us, by having a outreach. and letting people sign up in the district to attend a webinar and go over, certain topics and create interest and get them to book time with you to, go over maybe their dreams or their plans or things that they want to do. I would caution it to be, very, robust conversation and short. Well, I think that up in Baltimore, I heard one of the speakers said, "I'm going to do the three B's. I'm going to be brief, I'm going to be brilliant, and then I'm going to be seated." I thought that was fantastic. I was like, I'm writing that down. I'm ripping that off. But I think that if you kept them to a half an hour or less, and chose one topic, I would love to get other people, involved, like Carrie Gray. I mean, good gracious, I could learn wonders from her on the marketing aspect of companion clubs. I mean, she ran. I've been doing it for like 5 years, and she like whoop, ran circles around me. Al DeLucia. I mean, he just knows how to talk to people. Everybody on this call that's willing to learn and wants to put something out there, I think that would be a great thing. And I think your presidents and membership chairs in your districts and stuff like this would give up a half an hour to come see what we had to say and give them ideas. But that's something that I had brought up at the last meeting, and Sean just, tossed me right there under the bus in front of everybody to let y'all know about it. So y'all tell Sean if you think it's a good idea, if we think that we should, kind of get that out there instead of just keeping it to ourselves. Just let him know on that.
Well, it's almost like you're looking over my shoulder. Maybe you are. I am in your state right now. You might. Chris quoted Paul Harris quite aptly when he said that you have to be evolutionary at all times and revolutionary on occasion. Then we've heard some of these success stories. And then Carrie, who's relatively new in her role, jumps in and says, "Hey, I've got this situation. I need to think about ways to overcome it." I'd love to ask this group while we're all together here for just a few more minutes, at least on this occasion, what other resources out there do you feel that you still lack, that you can't find, that you some type of database, if no other word comes to mind, is it that you need to be able to tap into, but you're not quite sure where that is? Is there anybody else that's relatively new to the role that is just, gosh, where do I go from here? What's going on? What can I do next? How can I get this kicked off? Anybody else feeling that way? Because let me relate it this way, and maybe by the time I finish with this little soliloquy, you'll have an idea. In Zone 33, back in the beginnings of this, it was decided that this group was going to be a zone committee. Each district had its representative, but it very much was about the zone. Because you will remember that part of what is involved as being a member of this group is to be where the rubber meets the road and collect the data and assist the clubs and find out what they're being created. Then you report that back to me so that I can pass it on to the director. And now that Jeremy has gained the P in front of his RID, if you will, and Patrick Eakes has taken his place, the process is still the same. This is a zone committee. This is about the things that are happening in the zone. But make no mistake, the magic, to use Stephanie's term, it happens in the clubs. Nothing happens at the zone other than a bunch of people get together and talk and mold the future that you're being expected to follow. But if it weren't for the clubs and the activity taking place at that level, there wouldn't be anything to manage. There wouldn't be anything to talk about. There wouldn't need to be a summit, right? Everybody's going to Pittsburgh, right? In a few weeks. Yes, of course you are. So tell me what it is, given that structure, you need in order to be more successful at what it is you feel like you're being asked to do. Anybody have any thoughts about that? Do I need to pick on somebody? I will. I will.
David has a question.
David has his hand up.
Does he?
So my question is, where are the lessons learned from these events, from these mergers and that we talked about today? Where are they written down so people can take a look at the pros and cons, the pitfalls they ran into, and trying to make these things happen? Where does that exist?
That sounds like a Terry Weaver question. Terry,
because to me, if you want this to happen, if you want new ICAs to learn about this, it'd be nice to have a resource base. Say, okay, this is what happened. It doesn't have to be the Bible. It doesn't have to be a novel, but it'd be nice if it'd be a 2-3 pages of what was the issue, how did they resolve it, what were the pitfalls they ran into on the way, and what does the new club look like now?
So some write-ups on some of these edge cases, some of these cases. Is that what you're asking, David?
Yeah,
So you guys can read those? I think that's a
Yeah.
fantastic idea. We could probably put that in the playbook, Renee.
Yeah, I don't know if
I
that
love that.
specifically exists, David, but
Well,
I think it needs to exist if we want
Good
to
idea.
if we want this to happen, it has to exist. If you want people to jump in, there's a lot of nice lessons that were talked about today,
Mhm.
but I think we really need this kind of a database that new ICAs and new clubs interested in reforming can go to and say, here's what they did, and here's what worked for them.
Yep. Al, I see your hand up. You're going to cast sunshine on this.
I hope so. David, you make an excellent point. I don't know that any of that is written down right now, but I think that is exactly, or at least part of our playbook that we're going to be working on needs to address that. And really, I don't know that you can give an innovative club advocate a job description. But I think
I'm not looking for a
but
job
what I
description.
think we
I'm
can
looking
do.
for
What I think we need to do is kind of talk about some of the things that every ICA is going to encounter. Number one, how do you find the clubs that are interested in some type of innovative club model and innovative growth membership? What are the common obstacles that you're going to encounter when you talk to those clubs, and when the clubs talk among themselves about forming an innovative club? How do you overcome those obstacles? How long does that take? Who do you need to get on board? How do you identify the champions in that club that start to drive that train of the innovative club method of growth? And then how do you get the board on? Then how do you recruit members? And then what's the involvement of the traditional club or the parent club or the sponsoring club to that innovative club, to that sponsored club? And then how do you get that traditional club and that sponsored club working together? How do you get that experience of that sponsoring club over into your sponsored club? And how do you get the energy of that impact club or non-traditional club over into your traditional club?
And I think, and then to put that into David's terms of his question, not only do you give that path that can be taken, but an example of a path that has been taken.
Right.
Is that the way I understand it, David?
Yes, I mean, I heard some good stories here, and I'm taking notes on them as we go along, but there's really not enough details there to know what all the things that Al just talked about,
Right.
that are really important on the journey to making a new impact club or a new satellite club or whatever happen.
Well,
I think we could. Oh, go ahead.
Terry Weaver just asked for screen share capabilities. We may be getting ready to lean more towards even a better answer than the one that's already been given. Terry, you've got it. Go ahead.
I wanted to state first that the library we have is on the Innovative Clubs page on the zone site. And the way to get there is rizones33-34.org, and then just search on Innovative. And there are a whole lot of base materials there. What we don't have is what I think you're describing is an FAQ, frequently asked questions. We have something very much like that, focused entirely on impact clubs, and we could perhaps use that as a model that be a nice template to get something like this started. But we have the impact clubs fact sheet, and it's really in a more of an FAQ format. But you will find things about bylaws changes and all the mechanics of organizing these clubs on that Innovative Clubs page.
Okay.
Great. Mark, you got your hand up next. Go ahead, please. We've got a few more minutes.
Sure. I just kind of want to go back to what David had said, but maybe we can all chip in and provide some sort of a little paragraph, or I call it maybe a case study, much like we use in RLI with certain activities that we do. But it could be a simple case study. Here was the state of things. This is what we did. This is what was the outcome, and what kind of production it produced for the benefit of the club. But we might be able to put something like that if we all have some experience, and not just little short, brief case studies that we can put on a sheet of paper or a document, so we can see the different experiences that everybody has had in one way, shape, or form.
Excellent, excellent idea. Connie, you're up next. Go right ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you. I love different styles of learning, and we all have different styles. As a DG right now, to go into a bunch of reading, it's really hard. And so I think what Patrick Longano came up with was excellent, because we're talking about it and we're all excited and we know what we're talking about. And then we leave these calls and get all busy. It's hard to get other people in the district to get on board with the whole innovative club thing. And telling them here's a resource that they can go read is not going to get them excited. And I think what Patrick's recommending, with it being, little snippets of here's something to get you thinking about other people who aren't going to go into a library and read FAQs. I know it's all there and it's great, but it's not for everyone. So we need to think about the other side of it, which is human interaction, which I love, and being able to talk with people and get drilling down into those discussions a little bit more. And then you go and you do your research after, but getting people excited, I think, needs to happen first.
Patrick,
I was really looking at it from the database from the standpoint of something that myself as an ICA could read, not for everyone out there to necessarily read, but as I'm approaching clubs and they're telling me their stories, what's happening, for a research for myself as an ICA.
Okay.
Mike, I see your hand up. Before I get to you, Rich just sent something in the chat. He's actually holding something he believes might serve as a good starting point for a product. Is that right?
Yeah, this has been an awesome call. Love the idea sharing, but in the spirit of me sharing, I took a 10 seconds to really scribble up what I believe is a solid framework for the ICA movement. That's the landscape version. That's the portrait version.
And we can't read any of it.
It really is thinking outside the box. It's realizing that we really don't have a potload of constraints. In fact, we have very few constraints in creating clubs. To me, the magic is inspiring people that we have to be innovative. And some people you can move quickly, other people will take longer. But getting people to think differently, think outside the box. Without an innovative mindset, we're going to be pushing boulders uphill.
A wise man once said, "One size fits one," right, Rich?
There you go. So to me, it's continuing to push on innovation.
Mike?
Okay, so my learning style is probably the opposite of Connie's, and that I like to see it on a piece of paper, and I think I'm more aligned with David on that probably than verbal. And so my thought is, we know the clubs that have been formed in the last 5 years since this initiative has been underway, and rather than lose that history forever by just ignoring them and letting them go, we ought to have some way of collecting that, and maybe it's in the form of a Google form where we have a series of half a dozen questions that we ask the people that help form those clubs. What would you do differently? What did you learn? What worked? What didn't work? Those sorts of things. And so, if we collect, we end up with 10, 20, 30 of those, then all of a sudden patterns emerge that we wouldn't see on a one-off kind of a club. And then certain talking points get formed. You see the same thing over and over again. Didn't cannibalize. Well, that becomes a talking point. But I think it's good to collect that history while it's still fairly fresh. And then to David's point, it can be used, and I don't know the best way to do it, but probably a Google form where it's just a survey, a series of questions that the creators of those clubs, we ask them to answer.
something you said made me think of this, and I'll throw it out as a reminder to the group, and then we'll try to get there, buddy, before we have to go. If you go to that Google sheet that exists, that 24-25 new club development sheet where each district's ICA goes in and reports the monthly update. If you look across the bottom of that document, there are tabs, one of which shows the clubs that have been created in the last 3-year window. And that was something that started to be compiled because Terry Weaver asked that in order to be able to measure the data, you have to have data. So we asked everybody to go back and put that in there so that could be done. And David, that might be a good place to look for an additional resource, or anybody else that like Connie said, likes to learn that way. If you look at that list, you can see something that was formed in the past, where it got started, what district it's in, how many people were in it at the beginning, and how many people are in it now, because that continues to get updated as well. So if you see one that started with 8 or 10 or 12, and now it's 25, 30, that might serve as a great person or district leadership to reach out to. And while we're trying to put this together in the way you describe, that might serve as a readily available substitute resource for the time being. So I'd encourage everybody to go look at that.
And I think that's something we could do as a zone ICA team. But I think collecting verbiage from the creators of these clubs is an added value while they still remember it.
Right. Right. All right. A couple more. Patrick, go right ahead.
Real quick, anybody know how many satellite companion clubs we started in Zone 33 last year? July 23 to June 30th, 24. 16. 16. Guys, we've got this. We talked about it on the last call. We could smoke that. That's not a problem. Everybody is rocking and rolling on it. Bet you didn't know. Here's a really good point that I learned when I was up at RI. Do you know how many people are in satellite clubs across North America that are registered correctly? You're going to choke when I tell you. Total number of people in North America in satellite clubs.
700,000.
1,800.
Wow.
Zone 33 leads them all. And we haven't even scratched the surface with the talent that is on this call. I'm going to give you something, David. I thought that your question was great, and I think that that is a way that we can go. But if anybody's a visual learner, until we put some of this stuff together, anybody on this call is available to, if you want, you can go on one of our calls. The formations of companion clubs. We do 4 steps. You guys can sit in if you're interested in learning how to do it. It can translate not just to impact, but to any type of companion club your district would want. If you want to, my email address is all over the place, or written on the stalls of gas stations across the zone. So if you want to, if that visual learner, and want to participate, you're more than welcome to jump on any one of these calls and just listen and pick up a thing or two maybe on the formations of those.
Great. Thank you, sir. Mark, got 2 more. Mark and then Andy, and then we'll wrap it up. Go right ahead.
Yeah, gas stations across the zone. All right, whatever.
Thank you.
I mean, can we just say, anytime we say the word cannibalism, can we start throwing $100 into the foundation? Because, and I see Albert down here, and the reason I raised my hand is because he's spitting fire in the chats. He's exactly right. We need to stop saying this is what we're going to do. Go to the Rotary clubs and say, what do you need us to do? How can we help you? It's a center out kind of leadership. It's not a top down, bottom up. It's a center out. We got to go to the clubs and say, okay, you've got an idea. How can we help you do that? That's the way to do it.
Excellent point. Governor-elect Van Hook, bring us home.
All right. Thanks, Mark. Proud to be your classmate, buddy. I think the thing I would say is I appreciate the fact that we've got a blank sheet of paper. We can do what we want and there are no rules and then the sky is all blue. I do think, however, there has to be some sort of framework. I threw it in the chat because I think without that, giving people this blue sky opportunity, they will overthink and then not do. I mean, it's essentially like giving somebody saying, hey, You've never had a car before and you've never seen one before. You can go all these places and toss them the keys and walking away. So we've got this great opportunity, but if we don't give that person that we gave the keys to this new this new automobile to take them places that they need to drive on the correct side of the road, then we're not going to get very far. Just my 2 cents.
I think that is very well said. And that really helps summarize where I think we are at the end of this hour. We're not talking about just numbers. We're talking about the why, right? We're trying to create more services and create impact to the community while expanding our reach and doing that and having the right conversations for the right reasons. Does all that sound familiar? Anybody never heard some of those things before? Raise your hand. Yeah. It's called the action plan, folks. It serves as a great framework for all of us to continue to do what it is we're doing. I appreciate all that discussion, and I'm sorry if there's any more questions. Try to remember them, put them in the chat, send me an email. I'll make sure they get worked into where we are next month. In the meantime, I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping with everybody and make sure that you've got these very important dates on your calendar. And as they're coming up now, 6 days from now, Monday, September the 9th, is our International Director Patrick's monthly Zoom formation call at 1 o'clock. That also happens to fall on the same day, thanks to our U.S. holiday of Labor Day this weekend, the MAP call. And the topic for the MAP call on Monday is finding great new members. How ironic. A week after that, September the 16th, is the monthly DMC call led by our Rotary coordinator, Terry Weaver, and that calls at 5 o'clock. On Friday the 20th, don't forget, I know you don't like reminders, and I know you don't like too many emails, so be ready for your team to reach out to you and remind you that your monthly numbers are due on that Google Sheet that we mentioned before. And then this call next month is on Tuesday, October the 1st, right out of the gate, first day of the month at 5 o'clock. And just to provide a little bit of levity, if you weren't already aware, today is September the 3rd, which is U.S. Bowling League Day in the United States. So I just wanted you to be made aware of that. I appreciate the lively discussion. I appreciate the input. It's so nice to hear from so many different people and from different angles with different concerns. And as Connie said, to learn in different ways. It's up to us to figure out how all those are going to work, where we're going to keep them, and then not just put them on a shelf and leave them, but continue to revisit them over time. Because it's great to have a fancy set of tools, but if you don't know how to work on the car, all you've got is a set of tools, and they're worthless sitting in the box, right? So I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you all for being here. I think it's the best hour in a month's worth of Rotary you can get. Of course, I'm biased. Everybody knows that. If there's anything we can do in the meantime, reach out to me or the team member that is designated to assist you. I look forward to seeing everybody very soon. I hope you all take care in the meantime.
All right.
Good
Thanks,
night.
Sean.
Good night,
Bill came
everybody.
running
Great
in
job,
and
John.
said, did Sean say
Good
bowling?
job.